the 9th of March. You always knew it would be, didn't you?
I always knew this day would come.
You said to me at some point it's going to be the 9th of March, and I'm going to have to choose my circle wisely. And today we're talking about choosing your circle wisely.
Which is the the long anticipated follow-up to Tuesdays with Murray.
Nice. Very good. You found that funnier than I think everyone else will.
I think I did.
Very good. Today it's our friend Marconius Rufus, one of the wisest men and one of the lesser talked about Stoics.
Where's he been? We've been waiting for him all year.
He's very stoic about it. He doesn't want to be involved.
It's not a big deal.
I'm going to tell you what he said.
Please.
From good people, you'll learn good. But if you mingle with the bad, you'll destroy such soul as you had. Now, how do you feel about this? So this is the idea of if I surround myself with good people, good friends, a good circle, ambitious people, whatever it may be, I should automatically become like them. Do you agree or disagree with that as a sentiment?
So I'm kind of in the middle on it, and what I'll...
Get off the fence.
No, I've got splinters in my arse. What I will say is, there's a phrase, isn't there, that you become an amalgamation of the 5 people that you hang around with the most, which I think is powerful, and I think that actually you should have mentors, whether they're actually mentoring you or mentoring you from the sideline, but you should have people that you look up to and admire. But I also think it's important to have people in your life that bring a little bit of that black and white. Like, it can't all just be positives. I think you learn so much more from people that might be different, because one will inspire you and one might motivate you to say, actually, I want to be that, and I know that I don't want to be that. So I think keeping people in your circle from a variety of walks of life is powerful.
Yeah, and like, we could take this in 2 ways, couldn't we? Like, if you think about the Buddha, the reason he became the Buddha is he grew up as a rich prince behind the palace gates. And one day he left the palace gates and saw there's suffering everywhere. There's poor people. There's all these things that I didn't know, all these terrible things. And actually seeing the worst of mankind, the worst suffering that we can go through, made him then want to become a better person. And the Stoics used to do it as well. You know, the Stoics, there's a story about Marcus Aurelius as a child walking around seeing people fighting or being reactive or emotional in the street. And he didn't see that as that's something that I now should become. His teacher told him, no, that's a lesson. And when you see the worst of people, you see things you don't like, you should remind yourself that's what you don't want to become.
Yeah.
So there's probably an argument to be made for both. Because I imagine things like this can be quite tough on people, especially maybe salespeople who are in a business, they're seeing sales as a career, they're ambitious, but they look around, they're not seeing that from their team. And then they're thinking, like, oh, I'm in the wrong place. But you can also see being with the wrong people as, well, what can I learn from them about what not to be? So I don't think people should be hard on themselves about, I don't have like the perfect mentor and Richard Branson's mobile number in my mobile.
Yeah, I think the question to ask is whether there is no good nor bad, whether your circle is motivated and inspirational or not motivated and coasting, is what is the lesson that I can learn from this? Something I've been doing recently, and I'll share with you because I think it is very interesting. I think that salespeople can do this as well. So it's probably a bit of a technique, but I'm also going to bring tech into it because it's the year of AI, 2025.
Right,
we're talking about AI. What I do in the mornings is I journal. Okay, so I voice record and I'll talk about the day before, some of the highs, lows, some of the calls that we had, maybe some of the discovery calls, maybe some of the clients, maybe some of the things with the team. I think salespeople can do this at the end of the day. We get our team to do a report so they can reflect on it. And what you can do is you can look back and reflect on the day. So journaling is so important. The Stoics spoke about it. But what you can now do is you can be really, really smart, is you can take the transcript that you've recorded, you can put it into a piece of AI. So I use Notion. You can use ChatGPT or Claude or other AI providers are available. Then you can get them to start giving you the feedback. So based on what I've said over the last week or yesterday, what was the biggest problem? And then we can start to say, right, who are the mentors that if I could choose, I would have in life? So I might choose Derek Sivers, you might choose Tony Robbins, you might choose Chris Voss or Keenan. And what you can do is you can say, imagine you were this person, based on the problem that I'm having in sales, what advice would you give me?
Nice.
So all of a sudden, you're tapping into these brains that you admire and these mentors, and they're cheering you on from the sidelines, but actually you're not taking up any of their time or their resource, and you're solving your problem.
Well, give me something that you've learned then from doing that was something you maybe didn't spot automatically.
So one of the things that I was overthinking at the start of the year was my morning routine. And I go in and out of this kind of battle of like, I want things to be perfect, but I know that also life isn't perfect, that actually mid-January you've got a crying baby and sometimes it isn't always possible to wake up. So I was talking about that a lot. And I thought, I have this belief that sometimes the morning, like the Stoics had the morning routine, if it wasn't perfect, it would ruin my day. Mm-hmm. Now, that is a belief that isn't useful and it isn't true. So what I did is I got Mark Manson to give me some quite hard-hitting advice and just said, like, you're running a business, you're running a podcast, you've got a baby, you've got a party, you've got all these things, and you're worrying about, like, the morning routine. It's like, give yourself a break. And what you could do is you could tap into like, okay, based on meditations or letters from a Stoic, give me advice, but make it so it's layman terms. So you can be really, really clever. If you're big into your Stoicism, you can use Stoicism to help fuel you and solve your sales problems.
Beautiful. Very, very actionable advice there. And you're quite a bright lad, aren't you?
Well, I sometimes try. I was thinking when you say there about your circle and you think about like emotional people and like, there's no truer word than like the people that you work with, you spend most of your time with. Mm-hmm. So like there's that beautiful graph that you must have seen that when your child's a certain age, you spend time with them. And then after that, it depletes your parents, your friends, and it's just going down and down. But the graph that goes up is your work colleagues, but you don't actually have a choice. Like and it might surprise the viewers, I choose to hang out with you.
What?
What? But I choose, like we have a choice because we enjoy each other, but actually your work team, your teammates, you don't have that choice. There are going to be people within that team that maybe aren't motivational or inspirational. So do you have any stories about that from kind of your history?
Yeah, so there was a guy that used to work in my office who, and this is a thing, isn't it? You've got to be aware. It taught me quite a lot of being a bit more finger on the pulse because this was often happening when I wasn't in the room. He'd kind of given up on working the business. It had done its course, and look, sales jobs do, don't they? You know, there's typical like 2 year, you're kind of starting to think maybe there's something else. But rather than just having that as an internal dialogue with himself to like, maybe I need to start looking at something else to do, he almost started venting that frustration on the rest of the team. And he was saying things like, it's really hard to hit target in this business. And then that became, it's impossible to hit target in this business because he was struggling. But an interesting thing happened where you're looking thinking, why is everyone really struggling all of a sudden? What's going on? No one was really saying much, but there was like a real feeling of like, everyone's really I don't really understand what's happening. And then when he did leave the business, everyone told me that had been going on. And first things first, you're like, I need to apologise and make sure I'm a bit more on it of spotting these things that are happening in the office. But the interesting thing that happened, within about a week, everyone's numbers shot back up because he wasn't in the office perpetuating that idea that wasn't useful and wasn't true.
Strike the shepherd and the sheep will flock. I believe that's what they say. And it reminds me of the 4-minute mile. Nobody could do it, and then one guy did it, and then all of a sudden everybody was doing the 4-minute mile. Yeah. So I think there's a real key lesson there of like, whether you say you can or you can't, you're right.
Wow, thank you.
I've been Jack Frimston.
I've been Zach Thompson.
Remember, you will die.
Beautiful neck.